Everybody, how you doing? Everybody alive today? Yes? Yeah, everybody's everybody's at a typing spree now. Yes, Mike, I'm alive. There we go. Thank God it's Friday. Excellent. Uh, this is like I said, my name is Michael Lampe. I'm the coordinator of online learning at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. Hopefully, this would be one of the great ways of wrapping up the National Distance Learning Week conference here in Aiken. Where's everybody coming from today? Everybody's coming in. Hello. Oh, a lot of Aiken people. Spartanburg. That's probably the greatest city name I've ever heard. Columbia, Susan, excellent. Wow, okay. Augusta, cool. All right, so let's get started. I'm assuming many of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where there are just different levels of that someone needs to live or to be self-actualized, so to speak. And that yellow is very bright on this screen. We're going to be talking a little bit about what are the tenets of online academic support that's necessary today for us. And I know that some of you might be looking at it from an academic support side of things, as far as student affairs academic support. I know that some of you may be coming from an instructor's point of view. So I'll try to make sure that I kind of balance that out as what institutionally does an institution need to do as far as creating online academic support if you're vamping up your online coursework, instructional designers, things of that nature. And then if you're in the academic support side, what do you need to do institutionally to get started? So knowing Maslow's hierarchy of need, that's kind of like the analogy for today, but I'm doing this in the online learning setting when it comes to academic support. So we're going to be going over student need. We're going to be going over theoretical justification for the service that you want to implement. You're also looking at the tech implementation. What does it need to do to get the appropriate software? Is the software something that is allowing for the intended purpose? The assessment, obviously, assessment is a big key in higher education, more so than ever. Those of you who are in academic support will know that. And then finally, the troubleshooting, the tweaking that needs to take place. So we're going to kind of go a little bit more in depth with all of those. So why don't we get started? Anybody have any initial questions before we get started? All right. So, like I said, we're going to start with student need first. Obviously, student need is what's going to answer what your purpose is going to be. Is there a call from your institutional leadership that's saying, you know what, we want to make a better presence online when it comes to the university? How can we compete with your peer institutions that may be already going online? Are there initiatives that are taking place even within your office saying, you know, we want to make sure we get a better reach for our students? Is there a potential for more outreach with students? You may have students that are non-traditional students that you may not see on campus as much if you're in a bigger campus. If you're in a smaller campus, you may be seeing students that are more of a commuter campus, especially in the smaller communities and whatnot. Are there requests from students in particular that are coming into your office that are saying, hey, I really want to go and speak with my advisor, for example, but I just can't find the time to meet with them. I work a job along with going full-time. So those are some of the things that may prompt a professional or an office or even an institution to say, okay, maybe it's a good idea to explore online services, not only from the instructional design point of view and putting courses online, but providing that online academic support with it as well. That's something to consider with student need. So now that that student need is you were able to identify that student need. I think theoretical justification is the next best thing that you can do. It's like closely aligned to the student need, because a lot of times, many times you'll start hearing conversation of is it necessary, is it possible, to create online services when it comes to academic support. I know that it can be tough seeing things like supplemental instruction or tutoring, where they say, we've had these pedagogies, we've had these theoretical frameworks that indicate that in-person tutoring, in-person supplemental instruction is very important to making sure that the student gets the information. So that said, when I started this position as the online learning coordinator at Student Success Center, is trying to take a look at what are the tenets of student development theory and what are the tenets of online service delivery that I can blend together in synthesis so that I can say, listen, this is what we're taught in a student development theory theoretical situation, and these are some of the things that I've been able to research with the online presence of trying to get students to be more engaging online. So first off, I want to kind of throw it out there. How has theory shaped your work? Does anybody have any examples of you saying, I had this particular task that I needed to do, and I was using this theory or pedagogy to make it happen? Anybody typing away? There we go. Theories help you stay focused on the objective. Excellent. Anyway, I thought I saw somebody else typing. Oh no, multiple attendees. This is where we need to have the Jeopardy music playing in the background.
Yeah.
So Winona says, I use learning theories to help me adapt my teaching to help the students learn and engage in the course content. Excellent. I have one more minute to get the other. There we go. Using facilitation and active learning techniques with adult learners. Andragogy, yeah, hard to say just one, but I try to keep course designs, instructional activities, learning assessment grounded with and in theory. Excellent. So a lot of you do have that that thought of, it's nice to have that foundation, that theoretical foundation that says, this is why we're doing things. And that's exactly, I think, what you need to do, just as much as instructional designers do that with their faculty, just as much as we do it in person with academic support, to make sure that we're providing quality service. We need to make sure that we're grounded in theory for doing that. So when it comes to student affairs academic support, for those of you who may be in the Academic Support Center for USC Aiken, you're going to know some of these. Tyndall's integration theory and Baxter Magolda. I kind of clumped these two together is because at the end of the day, we gotta know where our students are at. When I'm faced with the argument or the stance that we need to make sure our students are in person, and I completely agree with that. I think that we do need to have that in-person interaction when it comes to making sure that they're successful in their academics and in their college life in general. But there are going to be times where students are not going to walk through the doors of the Student Success Center. For example, a student who may be living in the Greek village, which is pretty far away from the Thomas Cooper Library, they may not want to walk all the way to the Thomas Cooper Library at 10:30 at night to get tutored. In that situation, we decided to say, why don't we create online tutoring from 7 to 11 p.m. That way the student can feel safe in the comfort of the Greek house that they may be, or if it's not in the Greek village, if it's somewhere out of town where somebody can't drive 30 minutes away after going home from a long day of work, it's nice to know that they have an online environment that they can go to. And Baxter Magolda talks too about the crossroads and the idea of a student's going to make a decision whether or not they want to become more academically successful. And if it's not convenient for them, if you don't lower the barriers of entry in the beginning so that you can build rapport with that student, it's going to be tougher for them to say, yeah, I want to actually go ahead and continue. And then on top of that too, I'll get to institutional environment. But at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, online is an initial way that you can create social integration with the academic integration, where you're going to get them to interact with you. So I got a quick question here from Winona about how do I host online tutoring online? Am I using Adobe Connect, and do the students participate? That is a really excellent point. We'll be getting that to the tech implementation, but to give you a short answer to that, we decided to move away from Adobe Connect when it comes to online tutoring, and that comes to like I said, I'll get that to in a second. We decided to use a program called Scribbler, Scribblar. And what I'll do is let me type in that URL. Let's see here, /virtual/help with courses /online tutoring. So that's the link for that. I can't believe I know that URL now, but I typed it so many times. So Scribbler was just a more convenient way of doing that. So excellent. I love the interaction going. And what's that? History of gotcha. Perfect. Self-direction and online learners. Perfect. This is great. So, all right. Another thing. Whoa, that's big. What's that? Is it not working?
Oh, which one didn't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Oh, let's do this. There we go. I apologize. I did mess up the. Yeah, I got that. There we go. All right. I'm sorry. I forgot one part of the URL. So there you go. The SSC is the one that I always forget. So the next thing on the list when it comes to theoretical framework, and Tinto kind of touches it a little bit more about the environment. And this is going to be something that comes up later on in the presentation too, is a student is going to be affected by its behavior. It's going to be impacted, the environment's going to impact their behavior either positively or negatively based on what are their peers doing, how are they doing it. For example, we have students in Greek life that sometimes they decide to go with the Greek activities that they do, and it ends up hindering some of their academic coursework. So what are the policies in place that we are doing to make sure that they keep the priorities straight, that academics should be the #1 thing that they do, and how can we create that priority more so for them to make it convenient, and also making sure they understand why they're in college. But not saying that Greek life isn't a bad thing. I was part of Greek life myself, but making sure that they understand the environment that they're in, and what's going to be important for them for their future life. So when it comes to online, online engagement, obviously ADDIE model, I think many of you probably already know that. For those of you who are in the Student Affairs Academic Support Unit, obviously it's almost like the Socratic method or the scientific method for instructional design and any type of academic engagement when it comes to online delivery. Is analyzing what you're going to do, designing, development, implementation, and evaluation. I read a book recently from Conrad and Donaldson, and they created an online engagement model in this book. And one of the things I walked away from it was making sure the students feel welcome. What can you do to make sure that the challenge of accessing the service is as low as you possibly get? Are there multiple access points to getting to the situation to getting into the services that you want them to have? So that's essentially where we're at. Any questions about the student need or theoretical justification? Any questions in the audience? Not yet? Okay. So this kind of, we're going to talk a little bit about technological implementation. Interesting. So essentially, the technology implementation model helps us focus on. There's 4 parts to it. There's purpose. There's software. There's personnel. And then there is assessment. And I'm breaking it apart a little bit so that it's just a little bit easier to follow. We talked about purpose and the student need and theoretical justification. Is it essentially allowing you to do what to help you live out the mission of the office or the institution? I'm going to get a little bit more into the software. What kind of software do you have, and what software do you think you're going to need? And I think I'll point out, if you go to the file share part of the of Adobe Connect, there should be the technology implementation model. If you click on this, yeah, and I think, let's see here, I'll download this file so that I can see what I'm looking at. But what's great about this sheet that I'm, they can't see it. Oh, they can't see it. Okay. And what I'll do is,
they can download it to their computer.
Yeah. So if you download it to your computer, and what I can do is I'll share the document, and if you can see that, and what I'll do is browse my computer. Oh, where did it download to? There we go. Okay. Oh, there was an error. Okay. Well, hopefully that you can see that and you can click on the download. But this is a great way. I've also made the PDF interactive for you. It's essentially saying why are you doing it, what software do you want to use, who's going to administer it, and the assessment. And if you would like to go over this now or later on, the second page of that is really helpful because it kind of tells you, okay, identify the technology that you have, identify the technology that you want, and what kind of activities do you want to use for it. I think that's going to be something that will be very helpful. One of the tips that I'm going to have for you is the most recognizable brand may not be the best brand for you. And I'll give you a really quick example of that. So looking at this is what Adobe Connect does when it comes to logging in for our online consultations, whether it be cross-college advising or online tutoring. And I was taking snapshots of this as I was getting into Adobe Connect to show you guys what the framework of Adobe Connect looked like. And obviously we're in Adobe Connect, so it's kind of looking at a mirror within a mirror kind of thing. So, and what I did was I said, okay, this is the first, the number 1 shows what it starts to do. So it takes you out of the element of where you were originally at, and it tells you, oh, waiting for the software to work. Sometimes it'll tell you to download the situation. Sometimes it's going to tell you it didn't work, and this is why it didn't work. And then finally you get to where you need to go. So as much as we use Adobe Connect for a lot of things, and it's very purposeful because it has a lot of features in it, sometimes it's like I said, it kind of goes back to the theoretical justification of trying to make students feel welcomed in their situation, and making sure that we lower that barrier or lower that challenge for them to get in to the service that they need. Because if they're already being academically challenged, the chances are they're going to, if they're feeling more challenged to just access service that's going to lower their challenge, they're more likely to get out of the service and say, you know what, I'll just do this later because it's not working. So going back to Winona's question on online tutoring, we were doing Adobe Connect online tutoring, although part of our success in increasing it exponentially to 200 visits in a part of a semester before not getting too many before that was because we decided to change the software on top of the an intentional marketing strategy that we had. Can anybody kind of notice a difference already between Adobe Connect and Scribbler in this situation? Yes. And Winona, why would you say yeah?
Because over this side, you can write, and that tools that you can readily click on and choose. It doesn't look, it's not as cumbersome.
Right. So Winona in the audience said the tools are pretty much there, and it's just kind of more visually appealing as of this point. Tools are easily accessible. Scribbler embedded in. There you go, Gina. Perfect. I loved it. That's exactly. Yeah, I loved your answer too, Winona. I did really love your. People are getting ahead of myself with this. I'm really getting excited because this is fantastic. Agreed. I think I love what Winona said because it is exactly right. People are already kind of expecting this, easy to use process. It's very, you can understand for the most part the items that are on there, that the tools that the tutor can use. Especially for us, we have student tutors. Me and Dr. Garrett had a really interesting conversation before we came on, and I was kind of explaining how I teach a University 101 course at the University of South Carolina. When I asked them to do the VARC, which is a learning styles assessment, they 8 out of the 10 students in the classroom, obviously I had more than that, but I'm kind of summarizing, 80% of the classroom were visual learners, almost to the nth degree. There were only 2 students that weren't, but they were probably just off to the other side of the scale, so they were at 1 or 2. Think about this. This is a lot more visually appealing than something like this. It's not as it just seems to be a little bit more counterintuitive. Now I will create a caveat to that. I will also say too, before I continue my thought, remember we talked about Bronfenbrenner and making sure the students feel welcome. They'll always see that Student Success Center, University of South Carolina, all the time throughout the time that they're on the website and looking for the online tutoring. I think that's golden. I think that's just a way for them saying, knowing the hacking that's going on from time to time and the security threats that are happening online, knowing that they can feel safe because they're in South Carolina just eases that pressure. Another thing that I think is important is that troubleshooting form that I have up there is a WUFU form. So essentially, what I do is, if I ever get that troubleshooting form, considering that I'm the only one that really knows how to use technology in the office for the most part, it's a way for me to contact them instantly. If I get that troubleshooting form, I could contact the student right away because we're just starting to build our services, so there's not as many people, and it's a way for me to identify the problem right away and try to recreate what they're doing. So knowing that they have that troubleshooting red button there, I think is key. Obviously, assessment, we're going to get there in a second. The please sign in here, by the way, just in case you were asking, we want to make sure that we're getting the right information to put in our tutor track system as a way that we assess how many students are coming in, what were they there for, things like that. So they don't need to worry about signing into the tutor track like they do with some of our other services, but we have our tutors, the coordinator of tutoring does that for us. So just a quick thing, the caveat that I would recommend is, like I said, I would ideally want more access, more student friendliness over the features that you have. Now, the one thing that I would indicate is that if you need to have the features that that the software allows, make sure that it's necessary. For example, we use online consultations for cross-college advising for Adobe Connect. Even though I don't necessarily like the fact that it's not student-friendly, but the features allows us to do what a advising consultation to begin with allows us to do. And I think another part of it is making sure that when students go to tutoring, they have other options to go to. So they can either not do it, they can go to drop-in tutoring in various other locations, and they could go to appointment-based tutoring as well. So they have, not only do they have a lower level of entrance to get in, but they also have a lower barrier of exiting as well. Whereas cross-college advising, where we help students change their major, if they're asked to go there by the department to lift their registration hold, they have to go through the advising situation better, so they're more willing to deal with some of the technological complications. So that's where maybe the extended features might be helpful for the advisor versus somebody who might be tutoring somebody that may look at that more of supplemental, where advising is a little bit more of a need for many of our other students. So that's something that I would look at when you're looking at any type of software. So if you're institutionalizing it, or even if you're an instructional designer or a faculty member who are saying, well, I'm a faculty that is doing online courses, but I want to figure out ways how I could better support your students. If the institution that you're at doesn't have a software that they allow you to use to create online office hours, find a free software or a software that you can pay for through a grant that allows you to interact with students in a way that you can feel comfortable with, but at the same time allows the students to feel like you have that presence online. One more thing before I finish up this section. One of the things that we did in the beginning before we started really doing the practical stuff is mapping out what we wanted to do with our, mapping out the technology that we had in our office and what we wanted to use it for. Obviously, like I said, Student Success Center services that are not online are the key. It's gonna limit the amount of reach of service that we provide, but it's gonna give you the most engagement. And I think the same thing happens. Social media, it's a great way to kind of get their services out there, build a rapport with the students that you might want to build rapport with. It's a large audience, but not as much service engagement level is required or is what we want to expect from students coming into our office. You know, is email and chat something you want to do? Is discussion boards you want something to do? Interactive software like Adobe Connect or you know, any type of Captivate created, you know, Cultivate, anything like that that helps you interact with the students. Blackboard, for example, is another way that you can interact with students. So that's something that you should consider as well, is what technology do you have right now? And mapping it out and saying, well, what's the best thing for that? Okay. So last but not least, personnel is one more thing that I think is something that works. A lot of times we say, yeah, technology will be great. Yeah, social media will be great to have. And I see it time and time and again. People create social media accounts and they hardly use it, and they're not very active on it. And it's because we're all told that we have to do certain things. We are full time in whatever we do. So when we're adding something else on top of that, and if it's not fully planned out, that's something that you need to take a look at. So if you're going to provide an online service, whether you're a faculty member or reaching out to your student, know that if you're not on top of it, or if you don't have somebody who's on top of it, students are going to disengage really quickly. Just as any type of technology that launches, like an Apple iPhone. If an Apple iPhone flops on the first day because of huge technological errors, chances are somebody's going to be less likely to purchase that product. And we got to look at it the same way with online service. If a student comes in and you're saying, oh, we have this great new thing that you should try out, and it's going to help you provide or help you with becoming better academically successful, and they come in and they don't get what they expect, or you're not there, or the service that you're saying that is there is not there, they're going to be less likely to have it. So making sure that you have some oversight there, whether it be a group of people or one particular person that you hire for that position. Another thing that I need to talk about is stakeholders, making sure you know who you can reach out. I've learned this in service learning when I was doing service learning for a year. Is who is your active partners? Who are your inactive supporters? Who are your indifferent professionals? There's always going to be people that, yeah, they like what they're doing, but it's not really something that they have to really worry about. There's the show me evidence professionals. Obviously, that's where assessment plays a big role. And then there's those who will never buy in, and that's just something. And don't take it personal. Some people just don't want the online services or online coursework to take place, and that's fine, because most of the time they have an expertise that favors more in-person services. But trying to figure out what's the best situation and figuring out who it is. But I will say, the more people you get, so for example, if you're the green person, if you're the green dot, all the blue dots are indifferent, people that are indifferent to your service or may not know your service, and then there's going to be those in the red that are dissenters and really just don't like what you're doing. How can you spread the love to the point of saying, we're not here to take over, which it seems like what I just did is taking over, but how many people can you reach saying, hey, this is a good thing, we have justification, we have theoretical justification, there's a student need for it, we're finding out software that's really something that we can do, and trying to figure out who are we going to, how are we going to do this, how can we do this in an institutional way where we're providing quality service. And those that yellow pizzazz may be people that are going to be key players in making sure that it's more of an influence on campus to be like, what technology is going to work best for us, and how can we limit the dissenters, and how can we limit the indifferent people of saying, you know what, let's kind of work together in making a quality service delivery of academic support and coursework, so that we're not fully getting rid of the presence of a brick and mortar institution, but at the same time making sure that there's convenience for our students. Before I go into an assessment, are we still on board? Any questions so far?
You got number 2 on the questions board.
Is Scribbler free? Scribbler is free for a certain amount of classes, and let me pull up the website here. I believe I should be able to do this. Share my screen, right? And then Firefox. There we go. So I'll just show you a. Okay, so is it showing up right now? Perfect. All right, so I will go to scribbler.com. And like I said, it worked for us based on what we thought we needed. We saw a lot of success with our tutors. One of the things for online tutoring, I think, if you create a pilot for the tutors that you hire, if they're loving if they love the software, more likely than not, they're going to be they're going to advocate for people using the software that you choose. So I think what we did was we went up to the standard, and I think they're changing their setup. This is a newer company, so it was free at one point in time for the basic, and I think they're starting to charge now. But $24 a month we thought was worth it, considering of how many people we wanted to start using online tutoring. So you can do 30 days where it's a money-back guarantee. I actually started working with the developer early on. His name is Stefan, and it's really good. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the Scribbler Pro. You can use it. It's going to be a lot more expensive for a smaller usage. I mean, we're a big research institution. I mean, if we start getting a lot more people using online tutoring, we may go that route. And what Scribbler Pro really does is you can put, instead of Scribbler on the top of the online tutoring, it'll say you can put your own logos in and things like that. But I'm not too concerned about that, considering the fact that we can embed it into our website already. So if it's already going to have the header of University of South Carolina, I don't need to blast. I mean, there's enough people wearing Gamecock gear in South Carolina. I don't think we need more. So, well, I mean, that could be the case if some people are really diehard fans, but that's the case. So let's go back to that. Does that answer your question for Scribbler is free? Perfect. All right, so let's hide this. Okay, so assessment is kind of one of the few things. I mean, this is pretty much self-explanatory. As much as we don't like doing assessment, it's necessary. Especially with online academic support, there's really just a lot. There's really there's a need for it. I think website design for academic support units, and even academic software in general. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of software out there that they do their function as it is, but it looks like it came from the 80s. I mean, we're in 2014, that's me just being very, very hypocritical and opinionated about, not hypocritical, very critical of some of the software that's out there. But knowing the theoretical justifications that I kind of talked about, I wish that there was a little bit more software that's out there that would meet the theoretical justifications that we have, what we stand for institutions, and not just making whatever software works. And I understand that a lot of developers want to go into the field to make money, and institutions don't have that ability to pay uber amounts of money to make sure that we have good online academic support. But it's just something that because there's not as much out there, whether it's the institution providing online service or industry being able to give us tools that fit the needs for institutions. If you try something out, it's going to be put under a microscope because people are like, oh, what is that institution? We're doing that to see who's doing what with online support, and that's why we do these types of things, so that we're saying, you know what, academic support online is necessary. We're going to need it. We're bringing more and more courses online from prestigious institutions like Aiken, like USC, like Clemson University, any of those institutions that may be looking into online coursework. We need to come together and find a way that we can all benefit from seeing what technology works. How can we drive industry to say, hey, we need this, and can somebody fill that hole for us? It's like I said, assessment is a great way to make it work. Also, assessment is a great way to measure what your purpose is. That what we talked about before. Is it meeting the need? So with that said, the assessment tools that we use is Google Analytics, I think, is a great thing to have, and your software statistics and Excel. And what other assessment do you have in your office that can see what works for you, whether it is looking for technology or if the technology is working for you? For example, the marketing that we did to increase our website design. Now, this is not saying that because of the new services that we're providing, we're seeing a 36% overall increase. A lot of that has to do with the institution getting more behind the Student Success Center and being like, hey, this is something that students can utilize and should utilize. We really went gung-ho about advertising in the orientation. But one of the things I will say about Google Analytics is you can narrow down the page. For example, if you did online tutoring, you can actually narrow it down to the point where how many students went to online tutoring. Or if you want to be more proactive in planning out providing online service, if you have peak times, when are your peak times? And going to the websites, so the yellow line is last year and the blue line is this year. Even though we had an increase this year for the most part online, you could say, okay, there seems to be a consistent pattern, which is really interesting, to be honest with you. It's just saying time and time again, for the most part, you're seeing consistency in when students are kind of coming online. And how are you going to be able to plan your services? So if tutoring gets bogged down, with in-person tutoring, is that a way to really promote your online tutoring, for example? So this is a great way to do kind of pinpoint marketing. I think that's what we're starting to do, considering that we're noticing the trends in how students are accessing our website, how they're utilizing it. Another thing that I would recommend is for a quick advising chat that we do, we're using a software called Jivo Chat. And it's essentially, and what I'll do is let me show you, let me share my screen once more and show you what we do. It is,
So this is for analytics?
This is for analytics, but I'll show you the basic concept of the CCA chat that we do, just so that people have a visual on it. And that's not it. CCA chat. Okay, so somebody's not online right now because we're in our high advising peak seasons and we're short-staffed at this point. We're not allowed to provide as much of a service. But this was something that we started in the beginning, where you go down to the front, and can you see that for those of you in the audience? Perfect. So a student can click on this, and right now, because somebody's offline, you can leave a message. It sends us to the Student Success Center email. But when somebody is online, you can actually type and talk to somebody, and a real live cross-college advisor can talk to them about general advising and registration questions. What can they do to move forward with their advising, knowing that changing your major at a big institution like USC can be cumbersome depending on their situation. So this also limits the amount of people that will use a complete half-hour session for advising. For a quick question like, I don't like my advisor, what am I going to do about it? I mean, we can't do too much when a student just doesn't like their advisor, but we can kind of give them quick tips on the quick chats, just saying, oh, have you thought about contacting the department, things like that. So that's just something to do. Jivo Chat is free up to the first 5 agents, quote unquote. So you can create 5. What I did was I created dummy Gmail accounts that are acting as agents. So I have the students log in from the Gmail account, and then they use because we have peer advisors, and like I said, those who are advisors, cross-college advisors, professional cross-college advisors, we do that as well. So that said, one of the things that I do want to kind of give you a little point of, the reason why we saw a huge increase, and what's funny is how I told you that it was offline, and you would think that a student would see that, and because we kind of explained that it's there. But we had one of our cross-college advisors, Elena, her now fiance is now working for Connecticut, so she moved with him. Currently, she is working as one of our online advisors for the meantime. Before advising picked up, she was asked to start using the chat feature as a way to connect with students before she kind of got online for online consultations. As soon as we had her start doing that, numbers started to spike on CCA chat. So it's amazing how students want that interaction, which we've said before is something that we want. Is we don't want to make it be a passive interaction where students give us like a ticket saying, oh, I need help with this, and then we come back with an email. But they like that interaction, almost text message like thing. Jivo Chat works as a text message as well, which is great. So if somebody goes on our website and sees that link, you can click on it, and it turns out to go on top of your entire screen, and they can use it as almost like a text message. And then as soon as she left, as soon as we decided, oh, okay, let's do online consultations with Adobe Connect. Obviously, that's when things went down because we don't have as much of a online interactive presence with Jivo Chat, which I'm fine because either way, people are still doing online services for me, so I'm okay with that. Any questions on the tools? That was more of the practical meat of that, as far as what are some of the tools that we've been using. Anybody have any questions on any of the services that we've provided so far? Yeah, Jivo Chat. Let me put that up there. So I'll give you the company website, jivochat.com. Another thing that I will do is give you the link to what we provided here. Let's see, ssc/virtual/CCA chat. And let me click on that to make sure that works. That does work. Good. All right. And then one more thing before I get to the troubleshooting I think you might like is I know that Dr. Garrett was talking about how she was using YouTube as a way to interact with people that are looking for some of the content that she provides and trying to get them to go to her blog and things like that, for those of you who were there before. One of the things that we decided to do is I've been hearing students, and I do it myself, is whenever I feel like I need whenever I needed some information on anything, if I had a question, or if I was taking a class where, man, the book isn't doing it for me, I need that visual experience, I usually go to YouTube and figure out, well, what's next. But the problem is sometimes you go to YouTube channels and it explains it differently, but at the same time, it explains the same concepts, but it'll explain it in a way where if you write an essay to your professor, he or she may say, "Oh, well, that's not how we talked about it in class." It kind of goes, off the scope of what we were trying to do, and that could be a little dangerous sometimes. So what we decided to start doing, and this started out in our supplemental instruction area. They decided to do an app called the Show Me app, which is a way for you to record sessions with the whiteboard and talk about what you're doing. And it's a really good supplemental instruction tool. And what I did was we had that for a while, and I just said, well, why don't we put it up on the website and see what happens? I didn't really market it or anything, and we were already starting to get some traffic. So if you click on, for example, biology, and blow for this person did an incredible job. So I'm gonna go here, but you look at this. So again, what's good about this? Anybody online that wants to respond? Winona, you can't respond because you already figured it out. Anybody online, tell me why this works. Oh, yeah. So why, again, like it kind of goes back to easy access, right? Anybody else? What was the other thing that we talked about? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, the environment is something that you need to work on too. Again, we were able to embed the video on here. It's Student Success Center. We could sponsor it. We could also transfer this to YouTube if we wanted to, and that's something that we're working on. But we want to make sure, before I make kind of a hard launch, I want to make sure that we have a bunch of videos so that when we put it on YouTube, it allows people to say, oh, I can look it up in an easy access. But when we do market it, we can say, oh, you can go to our website. And this is kind of how it looks.
This Show Me is going to focus on the path that blood takes through the heart and the body. In the body, we have two different circuits that blood can flow through.
And this is a student doing it.
Your pulmonary circuit and your
we had an
circuit.
iPad to use this, so
the
this is
pulmonary
great.
circuit takes
So I'll just
the oxygen
kind of go through it.
As you can see, I am going to use arrows to represent oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Red's going to represent blood that is oxygenated.
And then obviously,
and
she's doing this in real time when she's doing it, so she's drawing it through.
From there, another contraction is going to push this blood through the pulmonary semilunar valves.
So that's essentially, so how great would it be, instead of having to go to YouTube and find somebody who might be obscurely talking about a concept that's not related to the course, but actually find somebody who's taken a class at USC before, for students who are looking for that extra content, who may not want to go right through the door right away to say, hey, we have these videos available that are coming from students that know how the professors like, talking the same concepts, using the same terminology, but in a slightly different way. And that's, I think, what supplemental instruction is good for, is having students be able to connect with other students to get that extra help to fill in that gap for when they leave the the class into getting tested on it.
And that was through Jivo?
That was through the Show Me, we call them Show Me How-To videos, and it's the Show Me app. Let me see if I can get, let's see here, going back to, I'm going to say Show Me app. So this is the community, and obviously there's a lot of people that are using this for similar situations, but you can download this at the App Store. And I think it's only Apple to do it. So I wouldn't necessarily, because it's not on all the various platforms, you might want to not use this for online tutoring per se, but this is a great way if you wanted to record those videos and such. It would be a great opportunity to do it. I'm not 100% sure what the premium is. I think we used the free version for it. This got started before I got brought into making it accessible to our website. So that's another thing that you could possibly use as a supplemental tool for students to better engage with the content. Like I said before, we're getting a lot more visual learners than ever before because the millennials are like that. Not saying that we need to completely go that direction, because there's got to be some students who aren't visual learners. But this is a great, I mean, that heart and those arrows, heck, I can learn how the heart flows now because of that video. And it's a 3-minute video. You know, that's better than having to read a textbook and like looking at the lines but not really getting anything out of it. So, all right, let's go back. So, last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. And this is something when it comes to any type of online service. If you think you're going to go out there and just say, oh, this is a perfect model, we're not going to have any screw-ups, that's just not realistic. Tweaking is to be expected. Whether it's you foresee the student trouble and you find a contingency plan if something were to work. For example, we know that bandwidth may not be the fastest thing. We may know that microphones and webcams sometimes glitch out from time to time, or students say it glitches out, but they don't want to see or hear themselves talk. Like I said, it's kind of weird that I'm seeing myself talk right now. But there's also a potential unforeseen student trouble or unforeseen unintended uses of the software. So when you're going through the process, you're going to start seeing, man, I didn't realize that we could do this. Because a student started using it in a particular way. How can we take that to our advantage? Or saying, oh man, we're seeing that because of a high number of people coming into the service, we're seeing that the technology is kind of slowing down. How can we eliminate that situation? Do we have to segment it, or do we have to have it at certain times? Things like that. Also, the troubleshooting is also time to reflect what you experienced. What new ideas can you come up with knowing the experiences that you came out of providing an online service? So start the model all over again. If you say, hey, this worked for supplemental instruction when it comes to show me how to video. How can we use show me how to videos to do other things? One of the things that I think is really effective, and this is a perfect situation, is we're seeing really good success with that Jivo chat, CCA chat software that we're using right now. So the question is, now other people want to use it for our website. The problem is, at least the free service that we're using right now is that it's always going to be the same. So if you're trying to segment it to the point where CCA chat is only going to be on the CCA websites, how do we tell our students that it's segmented like that? I'm assuming more times than not, a student's going to see that there's a chat option available throughout the site, and they're going to use it to their advantage because they want to get their answer now. It's kind of like the Netflix culture, where I don't want cable to give me a bunch of commercials. I just want to click on it and have me see my latest episode of House or something to that extent. So our challenge is now that we know that the software works, how can we segment it out? And if we can't, is there going to be another service that's going to be able to provide something that JivoChat provided that's going to allow us to expand that chat service for the Student Success Center overall, whether it be general questions about the Student Success Center or specific questions related to tutoring, supplemental instruction, early intervention and withdrawal, things to that nature. So with that said, and I've kind of worked on this too, I've touched on this too, the students' needs do change as well. So make sure that you're aware of, is there new technology out there that's forcing a change in behavior with students utilizing their technology? There's always new technology coming out. For example, Scribbler is a very small company. It's not something that it can compare to Adobe, but because it's a smaller company, they have that itch for wanting to become successful, and they're going to be able to work with those big fishes like institutions that want to use it in an institutional setting to do it. So Adobe, like I said, it's still great. They're one of the big dogs on campus right now when it comes to this type of technology, but as many people who started in Adobe, they're leaving, they're starting their own companies based on what they learned from Adobe, and they're starting to utilize their services. You take a look at the cell phone industry, or heck, even the laptop industry. For the longest time, HP had a dominance over laptop usage, and everybody thought that Dells weren't the greatest thing. to be using because it broke down a lot. Now you're seeing a complete reversal. HP is completely down and out, and Dell is the one that's taking charge. So you're seeing that fight back and forth, whether it's Samsung and Apple, Xbox One with PlayStation 4. You're always going to have that. One's going to top another, and that's just how technology works these days. And I mean, video gaming is just the way to go. Nintendo created kind of the mass video gaming market, but you start seeing PlayStation, Xbox coming along saying, not only are we going to do what you're doing, Nintendo, but we're going to make it better. Obviously, that's up to opinion, but that's just how things work. So how do you apply what you've seen in the technological industry? How can we apply it to online academic support that we're using, or any type of online service that we're using in general? So with that said, that essentially completes the providing a foundation of online academic support. I understand that I tried to mix theoretical with the practical usage, so I'm hoping that this at least gives you some of the tools to provide for creating any type of service that you need, whether it be building content online, making things interactive, or just going off and making sure you can provide your own tutoring service, such like that. But anybody have any questions, worries, concerns? Did I speak too loud? Am I using my hands more? I don't. Anybody have any questions?
Which of those tools or apps would you say would be the more ideal one for somebody starting from scratch?
Starting from scratch, I think starting from scratch is going to be dependent on what your institution have. Are there any institutional license? Okay, sorry. The question was, what app or what technology would be the best thing to have for anybody starting out? I think the first question you need to ask yourself is what technology does your institution already have licensed? That's the first thing, because you can always make any type of technology work. So you could do if you have something that's free, try it out first, because then you don't have to do costs with it. Because if you're seeing students walking in the door, if they're leaving early with the technology you have, but you're saying, hey, people are actually walking in the door of this online service, that gives you momentum to tell leadership, hey, if we actually spend a little bit more money, we can actually get people to not only walk in the door, but actually utilize the service, and we can increase our retention. We can increase our numbers as far as using academic support. The second thing I would do is start small. Like I said, I think finding anything that works for you, and then anything that's going to be as student-friendly as possible. Like I said before, maybe bring in a couple of your tutors, maybe bring in a couple of your student workers that go with the service and be like, okay, we have 2 or 3 technologies that we want to use for program A. Out of these, which ones do you think do you like the most? Because if your workers like a particular product, chances are some of their friends are going to be at it. It's almost like that pyramid scheme almost, where if you like it, you're going to tell your friend. Social media is exactly that way, to be honest with you. Where if somebody likes it, I'm going to like that post. I'm going to favorite that tweet. I'm going to retweet it, and then hopefully other people are going to retweet what I retweeted, because they know who I am as a person, and they know the expertise that I have, and then they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to do it. And that's how viral videos go viral. That's why viral tweets go viral. Hopefully it's not for bad things, but when it comes into professional context, that'll work. I love Jivo Chat. If you're starting off small, if you're just kind of saying, how can I just have quick interactions? Jivo Chat allows you to have individual interactions. So if you have 3 or 4 people talking at you in the console, and I don't have the snapshot for it, but I can provide that if anybody wants to see it more extensively. But the student is going to think that they're talking to that person one-on-one. It's a private chat. But to the person that's administering the chat, they're going to have it's almost like a screen with if you click on user 1, it'll bring up user 1, user 2. So it's individual chat, but there's a console in place that allows you to make that work, so that you're providing that privacy setting. Especially if you're sharing private information, such as your VIP ID for us is a way that we can identify students in the system. So that's something to consider. But it really just depends on, like I said, What do you need it for? Is there going to be a lot of features that you're going to need? If it's something very formal like advising, what do you need from your advising experience? What processes do you need to go through to make sure that you do what you need for that session, and they can get the proper paperwork involved to lift the registration hold, or get the classes that they need, or any type of particular piece of paper that they may work with. Like I said, the more formal and the more legal you need to get, that hinders what you can do online a little bit more, because you need to do specific things with it. But that said, I think there's a little bit of room for that when a student needs it, but they can't come online. We did that with student academic progress. People that were on probation, we had an online consultation, but we tried to hide it. If people absolutely needed it, then we kind of had a process set up for those consultations. Does that answer your question, Sterling? Perfect. Thank you so much. Anybody else have any questions? Like, I'm here all day. Well, not in front of the screen, but.
And I'm in and out, so you did catch question number 4.
Okay.
Right.
Gevo chat. Where are the chat records stored? Yeah. So if you go, I'll bring this up. Let's just see here. Add new share. Oh no, thank you for coming. I'll just show you. I'll go to gevochat.com. So just like any type of software, there's the front end and there's the back end to anything. The front end, what I want to make sure that we do in the front end is making sure the student knows that they're still at the University of South Carolina when they're entering any type of stat. The back end, this is the back end where you can go through the software site so that you can get the information that you need. So I'm going to put my login information. Okay, so this is where it's kept when it comes to Gevo chat. So there's a setting. Obviously, we're not using the paid version, so we're limited. But you know, I'm a cheapskate anyway, so it's okay. I can make it work. So you can actually go to the archive. So if you're somebody who's supervising chat but not actually doing it, what's great is you can actually click on this, and you can actually see what they're talking about. And this is a somebody having a registration problem. And this is an offline message, obviously. But an offline message, it goes to our email account, and then they get responded via email. But this is a great way to kind of indicate, you know, who are they talking to. A lot of times, 16 minutes, 31 minutes. So even though we kind of every single time, it's like a student when they say, "Oh, I have a quick question." It's never really a quick question, and this is a perfect example. Like maybe 1 out of 5 chats that we get are actually quick questions. But if it's something that we don't necessarily need to worry about having an actual formal advising appointment, if somebody actually needs that advising appointment, that's great. Let's click on one of these guys is here. I'm from Wisconsin, so if my accent, I get more excited, my accent shows up a little bit more, so I apologize for that. So like, it's just great to actually see, and this is a private chat. They talk about, okay, this is my situation. What is it? You know, CCA Team 2 is what we called it. You know, oh, I can see your transcript, things like that. And I remember I told you before about the Gevo chat, how I put it in Excel to put it, and the reason why I do that is because I don't like their statistics version of it as well, because you need to pay for the comprehensive version. So it kind of can tell you where you've been at for the last 30 days, and a lot of times this doesn't account for any of the offline messages. So I kind of putting in an Excel document for me is nice, because then I can say how many offline messages are we having, how many online messages are we having. Obviously, you could tell here when we start getting into more of advising season, you see a bigger increase. And the offline messages, like the red is the missed chat. So is there a person that started talking? There might have been a disconnect, but usually you want to keep that as low as you possibly can because of the idea. And a lot of times too, and the reason why I don't like this as well is because sometimes your peer advisor may not log off right away, or it may not register through the system right away. So it may say that you have a missed chat, but at the same time, it just depends on, okay, well, were they signing off when they started doing it because their hours are done, that type of thing. So So that works for Jivo Chat. Let me go here. I'm so used to the thing being on the bottom here. So all right. Any other tips, tricks, questions, concerns, worries? What did I have for breakfast this morning? I actually didn't have breakfast this morning. You know, like I said, the technology implementation model, I put it as a fillable PDF, so it should work. I don't know if because it's on Adobe Connect that it won't do it, but if it does do it, that's great. If it doesn't do it, I can send you the PDF for it. I figured since we were online, it might be a better way of typing it in. So lots of useful information, but great. All right, so I think that's it for me. I very much appreciate it. Like I said, I have, actually, I have my contact information. Yeah, there we go. You know, I threw it up there last minute, so that's why there's not a huge gamecock on it. And you see me in the picture right now, so I'm fine with that. So feel free to email me, call me at any time. I have plenty of business cards, but you know, that's not necessary online either. So feel free to email me. I'd be happy to talk to you. The more we kind of come together as a community like this to kind of address these type of issues, it's coming, like online support